This morning, a story that has been a great concern to every Nigerian, including ourselves, has emerged in a way that it cannot be overlooked anymore. And that is electricity. Despite the reported completion of maintenance at a major gas-powered plant supplying the national grid, many parts of the country are still experiencing prolonged blackouts, including my area. I have to
Mm.
state it the way it is.
Yeah.
Businesses are struggling. Households are burning fuel in generators, and the questions are beginning to increase. Why is the darkness persisting? Just in case if you see anybody whose clothing is not well ironed, so
Mm.
that you know why. The power plant, a key gas-fired facility contributing significantly to Nigeria's electricity generation, recently concluded scheduled maintenance operation. It's not bad, actually. Nothing is wrong with, once in a while maintenance. It's actually advised. But after the concluded scheduled maintenance operation, something is still looming. Officials had assured Nigerians that power supply would improve immediately after the plant resumed operations. However, data from the national grid shows that overall generation has not risen significantly. Industry analysts say the problem may not be limited to generation alone. There are three possible factors that we are looking at, every other person, including themselves, as being considered. And the first is gas supply bottlenecks, transmission infrastructure constraints, distribution company load rejection. Nigeria generates power mainly through gas-fired plants, but if gas pipelines are vandalized or supply contracts disrupted, generation obviously is going to drop. Even when power is generated, transmission infrastructure may not carry the load effectively. And in some cases, distribution companies reject excess load due to technical or commercial constraints. If we look at this from the business angle, for small and medium enterprises, the blackout translates directly to higher operational costs. Many now depend entirely on diesel and petrol generators. With fuel prices elevated, especially in this current crisis ravaging Iran, between the US, Israel, Iran matter, production costs are rising as well. Just yesterday, we talked about how this hike in petrol is eating up, or rather scattering, Nigerian kitchens. Here we are. Some manufacturers say energy accounts for up to 40% of their operating expenses. All right. And one may be wondering, market traders are reporting losses due to spoiled goods. The ripple effect is inflationary, and the pressure on consumers is not funny. Energy, the analysts in energy sector, they are arguing that Nigeria's electricity problem is structural. The issue may not be maintenance completion alone, but the aging transmission infrastructure, weak metering systems, poor cost-reflective tariffs, insufficient private investment. Without addressing these fundamentals, temporary fixes may not translate into stable supply. We don't suffer now. We have we have seen, like, in all these things going back and forth, solution is not in sight. So my question is, if maintenance is completed but blackouts persist, where do you think the real problem lies actually? We are finished maintaining, it's no longer maintenance, but then there's no light, there's no power. Is it from the generation or transmission or distribution? Or is it the governance? Should we carry it and go and heap on the government? Samson.
If he presently, as it stands, the problem lies in like maintenance. The maintenance, we say maintenance, but no, maintenance hasn't still been carried out properly. Eventually.
Okay.
See, there's still a huge chunk of wires that transmits power to communities and homes that are old. They are weak, okay, in themselves. And then when you look at the fact that now February of this year, the gas supply that generation companies said they got was somewhere around 43%, which wasn't much, which wasn't enough for them to generate power properly. Okay, so these when analysts said we have a structural issue, this is one of them.
Okay.
Eventually, yes, this is one of them. And the fact that, let's face it, though, we are underproducing, and it is basically because of gas. And then also, let's not forget about the fact that the infrastructure for power generation that we have right now is undermined, in the sense that proper maintenance of our infrastructure is not there. See, we have the capacity to generate as much as 13 to 14,000 megawatts. But presently, so far this year, we haven't been able to generate as much as 5,000
So what happened to our capacity? You know, when they talk about this capacity, is it hidden? What is mitigating this capacity?
Majorly low gas supply. See, if there's not enough, like I said, 43% of what they required was what they got.
Yeah.
43%, which wasn't what they wanted, but eventually that was what generation companies eventually got. Now, if there is not enough gas supply, generation companies cannot generate enough power.
Yeah.
Now, if we cannot generate enough power, enough gas, now it is basically because we don't have enough gas generating plants across the country. Now, this is where we need to look into the aspect of keeping our policies normal and stable enough to allow more investors to come into the power generation industry for our country. Now, let me cite, for example, the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 was implemented in 2021. But you see that act, it was really bedeviled by a lot of inconsistencies. Okay, now these inconsistencies I'm talking about are such that they put off investors, whether international or local investors. Now, the act itself promises better royalties, fair taxation, okay, more money to it, money to attract investments in new gas generation plants, and the rest. But eventually, the policy, the act itself faced a lot of bottlenecks. In, for example, its implementation was slow because its fiscal and tax aspects faced a delay, too many government reviews, this and that. It could not be implemented on time. It took a long time. So
talking about this delay and the implementation being slow, one would now talk about, because I know that this power sector had gotten a lot of lashes when it comes, citizens, we are talking about corruption, they were talking about poor management.
Exactly.
Let us pick that corruption. Do you think that there are some persons, when you mentioned this bottleneck thing, are they doing it for their own selfish interest, or something is stalling it?
Yes, of course. Now, let me fall back to this PIA.
Okay,
2021. Now, bottom line, it promised plenty nice things, but eventually these nice things were not given out to the people to whom they were promised, and these are investors, local and foreign, because some people within the system, some people within the government were rather giving contracts to or allowing investors that they favored
Mm.
to the detriment of investors that probably had
Something to offer.
to offer.
Yeah.
Okay, and they were favoring more of the foreign investors, and
Leaving our local.
not all of them, by the way, but the ones to the ones whom they felt like this would favor them more personally than fixing the
Would have
industry
common
entirely.
interests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these are the issues that we're facing presently, and is translating to what we see, what we experience every day, such as you not having sufficient power supply at your area
to iron my clothes.
Exactly. So this is how all of this poor implementation of policies, corruption in the system translates into real life problems, which is blackouts for us in this case.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. While power challenges continue to weigh on businesses, another sector with enormous economic potential is struggling for a different reason: lack of local participation. And as we quickly take a look at this another business story, Nigeria's freight and the logistics market is estimated at over $6 billion annually. Yet, a significant share of that revenue is reportedly controlled by foreign firms. Why in the name of this nation? Okay? Why Nigerian investors largely absent from such a lucrative sector? It doesn't speak well at all. The freight industry includes cargo handling, shipping, logistics, warehousing, haulage, clearing, and forwarding. With Nigeria being Africa's largest economy and import-dependent nation, port activity remains robust. However, industry data shows that multinational logistics firms dominate large-scale operations, especially in high-value cargo segments. Local operators often lack access to capital, modern equipment, international partnerships, regulatory support. The implication economically is that when foreign companies dominate freight, the economic implications are like profits are often repatriated, local capacity development slows down, job opportunities may be limited to lower level roles only. Economists argue that strengthening indigenous participation could obviously create thousands of jobs, improve trade competitiveness, boost GDP contribution. You know, as a policy, stakeholders are calling for single-digit interest loans for logistic businesses, infrastructure. You know, when you consider all these things, you find out that infrastructure upgrades at the ports may be inclusive, transparent port regulations, incentives for Nigerian investors. Now, these are the things that when we do, we can actually spike the interest of our citizens to step in. But in your own view, what is stopping Nigerian investors from taking control of 6 billion freight market? Like, did you hear that figure? 6 billion freight market. Lack of capital, or is it policy barriers or risk aversion? Very quickly, because I'm just looking at our time.
Yeah, we're actually running out of time. Presently, I think it is mostly policy.
Or that is keeping them away from it.
That's keeping them away from it. See, like we pointed out, I just said moments ago about how the policies tend to favor foreigners more than the local people down here and local businesses down here, because some people feel some people personalize it. It's what's in it for them more than how it affects the economy in general. Okay, so now for example, back in 2018, 2019, Nigeria struck a deal with China, okay, to come and improve port operations in the country by infusing digital technology into how we collect customs and excise duties at our ports. Okay, now the disfavor the government as of then did to Nigerian businesses and the Nigerian workforce that could have filled up our port facilities, okay, was that they allowed China to after installing the technology to still operate it for a period of 15 years, I think. And during that time, China would be taking the proceeds from our ports to repay themselves. Now, all during that time, how you cannot expect Nigerians to fill key roles in the operations there.
Of something that you've already negotiated with someone.
Now, if Nigerians, the local workforce, gets a part to play in the whole system, it would just be, like your report pointed out, low-level jobs eventually. And then China pockets the chunk of the revenue that comes in through our ports, and then we pocket a little bit because the agreement was that after 15 years, good, China then trains our own workforce to handle the technology. Okay, but what's the guarantee that China would they could form an issue and say, oh, this is why we have to linger until another 5 years. And then you keep excluding Nigeria from the benefits of its own port facilities, the revenue that comes through the port facilities. So eventually, I think for the most part, it's policies that are not favorable to the
keeping Nigerians away from the market.
Exactly. The local key players are pushed out because the policies don't favor them, favors more foreigners, because the government is the people in charge of making policies are people who are more concerned about how it benefits them personally than the general economy.
This is a great nation, but then when we keep on being selfish about things that we are supposed to earn together, you find out that we are stagnant. Electricity remains the backbone of productivity. Logistics remains the backbone of trade. Both stories highlight a common theme: infrastructure and investment gaps. Until systematic reforms are implemented, Nigerians may continue to feel the impact, whether in darkness at home or rising costs in the marketplace. This point is where we draw the curtain